Lesson 3, add and subtract whole numbers. So when you're asked to combine numbers to find a total, this is called addition. When you're asked to find the difference between numbers, this is called subtraction. And if you look here, these are some words, all right, to tell you what of addition. If you see the words add or combine and all, these are some keywords to tell you it's addition problem. And if you look at the bottom here, decreased, fewer, how many more, etc. These are some words to tell you it's a subtraction problem. So let's go ahead and look at some addition and subtraction problems. Our first problem reads, a parking lot has two entrances. At the south gate, 619 cars entered. At the north gate, 184 cars entered. How many cars in all, there's our key word, how many cars in all entered the parking lot? So in all is telling us this is an addition problem. So we're going to add 619 and 184. So we're going to add using what's called the column method. So what you're going to do is you're going to go from right to left, and you're going to add column by column. So let's start with the first column. We have 9 plus 4. 9 plus 4 gives us 13. So when you have a double digit number like 13, you take the last digit, 3, and write it right there. Now, what happened to that 1? You're going to take that 1 and put it over the next column. And then you're going to go to the next column and add that 1 and continue until you're finished. Moving to the next column, we have our 1 on top that we brought over from the previous column. We got 1 plus 1 plus 8. So if I add 1 plus 1 plus 8, I get 10. So again, if I have a two-digit number like 10, I take the last digit, 0, and I write it right there. What happens to that 1? Where you carry it over and put it on top of the next column. Now we're going to go to the next column and finish up our problem. Looking at our last column, we have the 1 left over from the previous column. So we have 1 plus 6 plus 8. Now 1 plus 6 plus 1 gives us 8. Now 8's not a two-digit number, so you just write the 8 right below just like that. And that's our final answer. 619 plus 184 gives us what? 803. Now let's look at a subtraction problem. The problem reads, a parking lot has two entrances. At the south gate, 619 cars entered. At the north gate, 184 cars entered. How many more, there's our key words right there, how many more cars entered the south gate than at the north gate? How many more is telling me it's a subtraction problem. So we're going to take 619 and subtract 184. Just like the addition problem, we're going to subtract column by column going from right to left. So we start on the far right and we see 9 minus 4. 9 minus 4 gives us 5. So I'm just going to write the 5 right there in its right place in the column. Looking at our second column, we have 1 minus 8. Now, obviously 1 is less than 8, so you can't subtract that. What you're going to have to do then is go to the next column and borrow from the other column. So since 1 is less than 8, I come over here to my 6. I'm going to borrow 10 from that 6. So if I take away 10 from that 6, I'm left with 5. Now, what do I do with that 10 that I borrowed? I bring it over here and I add it to the 11. So the 10 I borrowed plus the 1 gives me 11. So now I can subtract because 11 is bigger than 8. So 11 minus 8 gives me 3. So in that second column, I have the number 3. Now finally, I'm in my third column. Now, I borrowed 10 already from that 6, so I have that 5 there now. I don't change that. That 5 is there now. Now I just do 5 minus 1. 5 is greater than 1, so I don't need to borrow anything. 5 minus 1 gives me 4. And there's our final answer. 619 minus 184 gives me 435. Let's look at some example problems. Looking at our first problem, it says a delivery truck driver drove 209 miles to Springfield to make a delivery. Then she drove another 222 miles to Lenox for another delivery. How many miles did she drive altogether? Now, altogether is our key word here. Altogether is telling me it's an addition problem. So I'm going to take my 209 miles and I'm going to add it to my 122 miles. Now I'm just going to solve it using the column method. So going to my first column on the right, I have 9 plus 2. 9 plus 2 gives me 11. Again, since it's a two-digit number, I take the last digit, 1, and I put it right under here. And I take that other digit, 1 from 11, and I put it on top here. Now I go to my second column and repeat. I have that 1 left over or carried over from the first column. So I have 1 plus 0 plus 2. Well, 1 plus 0 plus 2 gives me 3. Well, 3 is a single digit, so I don't need to carry anything over. I just move to my last column. I just have 2 plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, giving me a total of 331 miles. Let's look at one last example. The problem reads a garden center had 341 trees on Friday. It sold it sold 59 of those trees over the weekend. How many trees are left? Well, how many trees are left? Left being our keyword telling us it's a subtraction problem. So I'm going to take 341 and I'm going to subtract 59. So I come here. So I start in my column on the right, 1 minus 9. Well, 9's bigger than 1, so I can't subtract it. So what am I going to have to do? I'm going to go off to the left. I'm going to go to that 4, and I'm going to borrow 10 from that 4. Since I borrowed from the 4 now becomes a 3. Now, since I borrowed 10, I go back and I give that 10 to my 1. So 10 plus 1 gives me 11. Now I can subtract. 11 minus 9 gives me 2. I move over to my second column. Now I have 3 minus 5. Same thing. 3 is less than 5. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to borrow from the left. So I go to the 3 and I borrow 10. That gives me 2. And since I borrowed 10, I could add that to my 3 and that gives me 13. Now I can subtract. So 13 minus 5 is 8. Now I go to my last column. Now it says 2 minus blank. Well, blank, nothing's there. Well, there is something there. It's a 0. We just don't see it because we don't write that 0 in front because it has no value. So 2 minus 0 or 2 minus nothing gives me 2. And there's our answer, 282 trees.